So I have got some explaining to do. I know lots of y'all came here from that Volvo video. Well, what ended up happening is Braden ended up selling the Volvo for $330, which is, he bought it for $520, so whatever the math is, he sold it for less after he put money into it. And then that was a while ago, and now Braden has a hard body and he's trying to get rid of the hard body to get another car. So that Volvo is gone. And I'm still dailing the Honda Accord, but if you look here, won't you look at that, Braden's Volvo, which is actually my Volvo now. So what ended up happening is, I hate driving this Accord because it's so stupid and sounds bad and whatever, but it's got AC, heat, good radio, cruise control, it's got all this stuff, it's manual too, but I just don't like driving it, the attention I get driving it, I hate it. So what I ended up doing is contacting the guy with the Volvo, and I ended up buying it back from that guy for $500 after he fixed the wiring harness, because the wiring harness was bad. I don't know if you remember, there's a bunch of frayed wires right there. Now they're all fixed. And this is what the wires used to look like. This is just to the washer pump, so it doesn't even matter. There is no washer pump. So I got this yesterday, and what I ended up doing is replacing the ignition coil. I bought a new distributor cap, new spark plug wires, and new spark plugs, but I gotta wait for those to come in the mail, because you see, the all the spark plug wires decided to break off when I tried to pull them off, and then here's what the spark plugs look like. They were all missing their caps. That cap broke off into it. So these are, I put the same exact spark plugs on it without even knowing it. I bought the same brand and everything and put them back on, and I didn't even realize it. Oh, look, see, here's that plug that I was talking about that's all frayed. That was right there, so that guy replaced it, and so now I'm just going to redo the whole ignition system and everything and get it to run. I can get it to crank over but not start. The kid wired this up just so you could be able to start it, but if you hear, so you see the motor does crank over, so it's not bad or anything. It's just not whatever, and I obviously don't even have anything hooked up. The distributor cap's off, so but I've just been going over everything. I didn't go over it as much when Braden owned it, just because it was his car. I wanted him to enjoy it. I wanted him to figure out how to do everything, but he ended up not liking this car after he was so excited to get it, so I ended up buying it, and now I'm the one that's excited about it, because I just love how big it is, because look at how massive this car is. I already have a video about it, but it's been, I think, 4 or 5 months, probably a little less than that, but I've just been going over everything, and I made a list, so I'll show you that list. These are all the things I need. These are all the things I need to get for it, and these are all the things I need to fix on it. But half of these I did, so it's whatever. But I bought new headlights for it. I just ordered them. I got circle Jeep headlights, so I'm gonna take this crappy, this is 13 inches wide but 8 inches tall, and I got a 7-inch round one, so they'll fit in there nice. And then I'll take the lens off and then paint the housing on the inside black. And then some other things, I bought new motor mounts to fix it because you saw how much it was going. And right now I'm JB welding the handle because the driver's side handle busted. I need a new glove box for it because it's broken. And one thing I noticed about this Volvo is it has no radio. And not only does it have no radio, but it has no speakers and no wiring or anything. I don't even know where the rear speakers would go. There's no place for them at all. And that's one thing I wanted to do with this car, was make the stereo system be really good. Probably put a sub in the back or whatever, but from the looks of it, I'm not going to be able to do that unless I completely wire in my own, which is not that hard to do, and I'm okay with it because I got lots of speaker wire. But it's just going to be a bitch. But come to the back, you can see this. I was recording on my Snapchat earlier just how much this is, but I also noticed this one thing. It's like a compressor pump. I don't know if anyone knows what this is. I hooked this up to a drill battery and it started like whining like a pump, but then it says exhaust, and I think that's what this long ass thing was. That goes all the way into the engine bay, so I don't even know what that does. But There's the back and everything, but there's some wiring back here that's messed up. I don't know what any of that goes to, and none of these gauges are hooked up to anything. It's kind of stupid, but they are OEM Volvo gauges. Oh, look, we got the mail coming. This window is broken, and this is all bent, so I'm gonna have to get a new window track. And by the way, if you're wondering, the front bumper is off because in order to tow it home, I used the A-frame, which is that thing. I just set it there. It just hooked up to the back of my dad's car, and then I put those two to these front pegs right here, and that's why it's off. I kind of like the way it looks with it off. I might even make a bash bar for it. I don't even know. I think that looked pretty badass other than that clunky bumper, but I do like that big fat clunky bumper, just the way it looks, but anything that's not stock. But anyways, I want to explain what I'm going to do with this car. So first of all, I'm going to daily drive it once I get it fixed up, but I'm not going to leave it at that. Obviously, I don't want to drive a stock car. So my plans for this Volvo is to make it like a rat rod. So I'm going to like keep this shitty paint job, you know, all the weathered everything, the like light surface rust, I like all that stuff. This cracked paint up there, I like the way that looks, and I'm probably gonna rust it out. Like this fender, I'll probably spray this with paint stripper, get this fender all nice and rusty and looking good. And I want to get fat red wheels with white walls on them, and I want to slam this thing and just make everything look as rat rod as possible. Get some like yellow fog lights and everything, and probably not make this look nice at all. So I'd cut out a piece of metal that would fit over it, and then all I do is I'd literally drill and rivet it just so it looks all nice and chunky and rustic. Patina is what I like. I want all that style and everything. So probably what I'm going to do now is start making it look the way I want it to look. So I have some paint stripper that I'm probably just going to spray right on this and just let it sit and peel the paint off so I can get that rusty look that I want. So here is the aircraft paint remover, and I'm literally just going to spray this on and let it sit. It's only been like 2 minutes, and look at all that. It's coming up already, probably because there's no clear coat on it. Like, see the way this hood looks? I like the way this hood looks a lot, but what I think would look badass on this hood is, you know how people do like the Japanese flags and shit? I was thinking about doing like the Swedish flag on it, but in rust and like paint or whatever. So like tape it off and then spray the paint stripper on the parts and then make this look like the Swedish flag. And I'll probably do this top flat black or like some design and then sand it, like sand the design so it looks rough and weathered, because that's like all I want this to be, is like the rough and weathered look. And I just want this to be like a neck breaker, but in like a cool badass way, not like a rice way like that's been, or like my Subaru's like a cool tuner way. And I have the two types of cars, so I want this to be like the badass everyone likes, and then my Subaru only a select few people are gonna like it just because it's like a tuner car. So it says use a plastic scraper, so I haven't even touched it yet, but this piece looks nice and tasty. So it's just getting the clear coat off. This is all clear coat, so I'm gonna have to do another coat to get the actual paint off, because see, now it's just to the bare paint base coat. So I'll get this off and then I'll spray another bunch of coats on it. But you see, this is actually working pretty well. It's kind of satisfying to see it. But now that I got the clear coat off, it should go straight to the bare metal and then get it all nice and rusty. The paint stripper was taking too long, but it'll do the same thing that I just ended up doing. I forgot that I just bought a flapper wheel, so I ended up taking the flapper wheel and just going over the whole fender just to get it down to bare paint, because even after I got through the paint, there was that creamy colored primer, so I was gonna have to do another coat to get through the primer, but I just got to the bare metal just like this, so now I just gotta let it sit. Any oils from your fingers will get it to rust. I heard pee if you pee on it, but I really can't, because there's windows here, so I can't pee on it. But I heard beer and salt will speed it up, but I'm only 18, so I can't do that. And I don't want to spend a bunch of money buying beer to get it to rust just by doing the same thing that's already happening. So I bet if I just pour some water on here, I can get it to rust too, or some vinegar. I think vinegar works also. But see, this is what it looks like now. I did chip that a little bit, but it's okay. I tried not to hit this directly, but I did it anyways. I tried not to hit the door, but it did. It doesn't really matter because I'm not trying to be perfect at all. I'm just trying to get the look that I'm going for. I found some beer and some salt, so I'm gonna end up using it anyway, just so I can at least see what it looks like. So I'm gonna do that. Salt. 5:30 now, and it still barely looks any different, but in the meantime I was trying to take off the headlight, and I took the 4 bolts off the back, and you can't tell right here, it was stripped on the inside of the plastic in there. So I was trying to pry it out, and as I was prying it out, I grabbed this and it ripped right off. And the whole reason I was trying to take the headlight off was so I could take that off and paint this flat black, because in here is where I'm going to mount the new headlight that I ordered. I want it to go right in here and fit in here and be the circle ones, but I don't want this chrome ugliness, so I'm going to paint this flat black. So technically I can just clean it off and paint it here without even having to take it off. And then you want to see some Cancer Volvo wiring. There it is right there. I don't exactly know how to rewire this, just because the way the plugs look. The plugs don't look normal. They're like a little small one, so I'd have to figure out how to get a plug that fits over that so I can redo this wiring, because it is deteriorating like the rest of the harness was. See, it just flakes off whenever you fiddle with it. Look at that. That is not how you want your wiring to look. But anyways, I'm going to clean this off, and I'm going to see if I can just pry that off without even having to take anything off, and then I'll paint this flat black. Just like I thought, the second one popped off without even having to take anything off. I just kind of pried on it a little bit. So here, man, it just rained, so it's super muddy right where I'm at. You see the boards, but here's how it looks. I even think it looks even better like this, just like it. But here's the flat black paint, and I'm going to paint the insides of that. Here it is after. It's still somewhat drying, but you can see it's flat, the non-shimmery. This side came out better. You see it flat. There's a couple runs. This one came out bad. There's quite a few runs. I might fix those later on, but I'm not that worried about it right now. But I wanted to keep this top part chrome. I want to try to, usually I hate chrome, but on a rat rod type of car, the chrome looks really nice with everything else. Like let's say this whole car was rusted and whatever, as long as the chrome is super shiny, then that looks cool. So I want to try to make all this chrome. I'm pretty sure this is just chrome plating, not even like actual, I don't think it's actual chrome at all, but I at least want this to look somewhat cool with all the chrome pieces there is. Like that, I would usually paint that, but I like the way it looks. It's just kind of messed up in pretty much all the areas. So one thing I just did that was kind of cool, kind of a hack. You know the Volvo grills, how they're only held in by those 2 things, and then these twist tops, you just twist these, pull these out. Well, mine just so happened to be broken, my bottom tab. So what I did is I just got a self tapper, and you can see where the tabs were broken. And so now all I do is line the self tapper up in each hole, and it plugs right in, and it holds just like it did stock, except now it's metal and it'll last way better. And yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you just in case you had this issue, because now whenever I walk back, the grill is nice and straight and won't fall out, because I remember it kept falling out, and you don't want to lose those grills because they're a little bit expensive and they're always in bad condition, which Mine kind of is. You can see right there, I can just paint that black. That one's actually a hard plastic piece, and that's just the glue left over, but I think it looks pretty badass now. So all I got to do now is fix that wiring. I'm pretty sure the wiring on that's dick too, but this is the only one I can get to. It's kind of sketchy, but see, that's how it looks. You can see it's all actually all flat now. Those runs didn't turn out that bad. I might put another coat on just to make sure, but that's how it looks like, boys, brothers. So one thing I've done to pretty much all my cars that I'm able to do it to, I have done this. The Subaru. My BMW, I got a whole assembly, so it doesn't even have that anymore. And then the Accord. If you guessed that, then congratulations. But see if you can find the difference between this brake light and the other two, or technically three with the BMW, is I hate the way that amber looks. So what I do is I just put one really light coat of plasti dip, just enough to make it look black, but you can still see it at night, and in the daytime I already checked that to make sure. But I did it on my Subaru a long time ago, and I just recently did it to my Honda, and it already looks much cooler. So now to this, I think I can even buy a clear one, but I'd rather just make it black, just one little light coat. So I'm going to tape that off and make the taillight amber part plasti dipped black. And so here's a before, see both of them, and now I will tape it up. Two damn ass squirrels fighting over there, but see, I got them taped up now. Now I'm just gonna hit it with a few coats of plasti dip and get it tinted. I'm gonna show you what I'm doing. Just light coat, staying nice and close with it so I don't get overspray. I obviously don't care that much about overspray since I didn't tape anything off, but see, that is thick enough. Just make sure you get all the edges down. And there, see, that is the first one done. And now for the second one, get thick with it. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about no overspray. I can peel the overspray off anyways. So. And one thing with plasti dip is you have to take the tape off whenever it's wet, or else it'll stick to the tape, and when you're taking the tape off, it'll peel up with it. So, and then try to peel the ones underneath it, that way the ones underneath it can lift the other pieces of tape up. And now, oh damn it, and boom, look at how much nicer that looks now. Looks not as tacky as amber, but cooler. And if you think it's stupid to not do that because you can't see it at night, you can obviously see the light. I did a little bit thicker on my Accord, you can tell, but you can still see that at night. I've had my friends tell me it's very visible, so you can definitely see it, especially on my Subaru. My Subaru has really bright bulbs. And then this lens is actually cracked, which is why it looks like that, not the paint. But the Volvo should be just fine now. Happy Good Friday, guys. It is the next day, and I've already started, but I didn't record it, but it wasn't anything too fancy. Boom. You can see I painted the horns red. I was going to try to move them a little bit, but everything was so rusty that I wasn't able to. I painted everything flat black just back in here. This was so disgusting. It was all rusty and whatever. And I painted this, but I ended up just not masking it off and painting it red. And I'm honestly really surprised how well this came out. It's still a little wet, so then I'll tape the horns off and paint that black and everything else black. But everything in this area is looking pretty good. And then here, this black piece was missing, so I went ahead, and that's plasti dip. I sprayed it pretty thick because this one's like flush with it, so I wanted it to kind of look like that. So I got that drying, this drying. I'm trying to think of all the other things I want to do to it. And you can see the Swedish flag. You're supposed to spray the paint stripper on and scrape it right off as soon as it starts bubbling, but see, I left it on overnight and it's like not even working anymore. And that was the last of that can, so I'm gonna have to buy more. And I tried using a razor blade to see if I could like scrape it off, but it wasn't working, so I'm gonna have to buy more of that. But that's coming out pretty lit. What I'm probably gonna do later in the day is clean out the engine bay. Like, see that bracket's ugly, so I'll paint that, clean all that crap out, take all the stuff out I don't need, and reorganize stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna have a washer fluid tank or not. I'll probably set this to the side, take it out for now, because I got all this nasty crap and all those nasty wires. I mean, I'd like to have one for a daily driver, you know, but if I don't need it at the moment, I'm not going to. And another thing, I'm going to go to a metal supply place and see if I can buy any sheet metal, because see, that's pretty bad here. But if you look here, this goes straight to the headliner on the inside, so that's a direct leak. I got the horns and grill painted and I haven't even looked at it yet. I'm still looking away. And oof, that looks hot. Look at that. The horns aren't perfectly centered stock, but you can see them through there now, so it looks badass. It's a nice open grill. And what I've been doing is I took that thing off, I just unscrewed it, and I took the wiper motor off to clean that, to make sure it's clean. And then I'm actually painting the wiper motor flat black just because it was all crusty and whatever. And I was gonna do the same thing to that, but I wish I could relocate this. I don't even know what this is. It has a bunch of vacuum lines, 3 vacuum lines, and then it's got a wire that goes all the way back, and I don't really want to mess with that. But you see there's lots of rust all along here, especially back there, so I don't know if I should paint this or do something with it, but I'm cleaning it all up, trying to make this area look nicer, because I just want the engine bay to be nice and clean. I want the outside of the car only to look rustic, the inside be super clean, and the engine bay be super clean, but everything else look like that. But here's how it's going, and see, here's like a before of everything before I get to it, and then you'll see it when it is done later on today. So it's later in the day now, obviously, but as you can see behind me, boom, I got some sheet metal, some rusty sheet metal. See how this piece is actually folded in half, so it's whatever, but you can see I can bend it with my hand, but it's still pretty solid. So what I'm gonna do is use that to fill in this area. So put the piece like this to fill that in, so there's not a hole in it. And then if you're wondering what this piece was, this was just kind of sitting around, and I thought it looked pretty cool. I can like use it as a spray stencil, like I can cut the ends of it off and then spray the numbers out on it. I just thought that looked cool, so make it look a little bit more rat roddy. But I got all this for $7. It was 30 cents a pound, and it was 22 pounds, so $7 and whatever cents. But I'll be able to use that some steel for other stuff, like this battery tray, because I took the battery out to see how bad this was, and it is horrible. So I'm gonna have to grind these bolts down, because they're all, you see that one especially, they're all gone, horribly gone. And I also painted that flat black, the whole upper part, and then I relocated that one thing. I just kind of shoved it in there. I had to extend the vacuum line, and that other fat one I just took off because I didn't need it at all. So, but this is how everything's looking. I took the washer reservoir off and just kind of shoved this ECU thing to the side, and I'm just trying to get everything more open and clean. And so now that I got the sheet metal, I will be able to fix the rust holes and have that look rusty too. That look kind of cool. So there, see, I ground the heads off of those 3, and then this one was so rusted that it came off as soon as I peeled everything else off. But I took that thing off and that bracket off. That bracket goes right here, and that one holds the ignition coil on. And I'm gonna see if I can fix that up and make it look cleaner, like mount it differently or something, because you see this is super dirty also. So I'm gonna clean that off now that I got it open. But this little Harbor Freight flapper wheel is how I got it all like this. I'm gonna vacuum all this out, because this is stuff that's probably been there for quite a while because of how dirty it is and just the location of it. So I'm gonna get all this cleaned up, and yeah. So I got this cut in half, and then I cut the square out for the battery. What I did is I laid the battery down and I left an inch all around it. So the battery technically fits right here, and so I left an inch all around in the middle. And then after I cut the square out, I traced the battery, and then I cut the edges off. You can see it in the wood. You can see how I cut, like the battery fits in here, and I cut the edges off, so I have 4 tabs, and then now I'm going to bend those tabs up, and I'll show you how I do that now. So I have a vise, and in the vise I labeled the battery, I outlined the battery, and in the actual vise I have 2 pieces of wood, so that way I can get it even, because the vise is this big and the piece of metal is this big. So anyway, so what I did is I put the line right above the piece of wood, the straight piece of wood, and all I'm going to do now is bend down and make it 90-degree-ish. You can see now it's facing you. And I already did one side, and so see now I have a little channel for the battery to sit in, and then I'll drill a hole on each side so I can put a tie down, and then I'll also do it on this. You see the blue line, and all I did was bend it right on it, so now the battery should fit snug in here. And now I'm going to do it on these top or side posts now so it doesn't slide out on the other direction. Now I have it all lined up. You can see I made the box. The wood was too wide, so I had to go in the actual vise to bend this, but now what I can do is I can test fit the battery. I might have to bend this a little more, and then I can tack weld this in place just to have the actual box, and then the battery will sit nice and snug in this piece of metal. So I'll set the battery box down, and hopefully if I did this right, it should sit right into it, but if not, I'll just have to bend it out a little more. But let's test it. It's a little snug. I might have to unbend it a little bit. Let me go ahead and do that. It has these edges on it right here that stick out a little bit, so that's kind of why. This battery isn't even made for the Volvo. This is out of my first Subaru, and I gave it to Braden to use, and now I put it in the Volvo. See, look, now it fits snug. See, I got the battery box stuck on it, and then I can drill the holes, and now I can mount this battery box to the car. Alright, I put a coat of flat black on it, and I set the battery in there and made sure all the terminals could fit and everything. And now to mount it, it doesn't have to be anything fancy because it's just a battery box, and as long as it's held on, it'll work. So don't criticize me too much, but I have self tappers that I'm just going to self tap in, and it should hold it down just fine. You can, I don't know if you can see, I have paint pin marks showing exactly where the box went whenever I had the battery in it, but I'm just going to self tap it a couple of places just to make sure. This is very sturdy now with just 2 of them in there. So let's see if you can guess what I fixed this time. But you remember the tabs that went around here just to hold this on? So what I ended up doing is cutting those tabs off. You see the one there and one there. And all I did was utilize this. I tried to drill out the spot welds to get it off, but it ended up not working, so I just went ahead and cut it. And then in one of the holes for the spot welds, there's a hole right here, and it just threaded right in. I used one of the 3 bolts, and see, it's nice and sturdy now. I painted that flat black to look cleaner, and I painted all the areas around this flat black just so it blends in because there was some bare metal. And then I drilled the holes for the battery tie down, and I also drilled holes. I think I said that just in case water gets in there. So everything is looking nice and clean in this area, and I put this back on. I need to screw that on, but see how much cleaner and nicer this looks. I might even zip tie some of these wires up to get them cleaner and out of the way so they don't hang down. So here is the area, and I measured out about how long it was, and then I cut out that piece, and now I'm just trying to form it to it right now. So I'm trying to just hammer it, but it keeps moving, so I'm going to have to tack weld it in place
and then hammer it. That's how I saw the people at that body shop do it. So I'm gonna clean this area up with the flapper wheel, get everything down to bare metal where it needs to be. Because see, I'm gonna start about here and end about here. That's all the way through, but I can fix that something else because I took this off and I don't want to. I want to keep this to be able to be on, so I don't want to get that underneath that. But I'm going to flapper wheel all of this down, and then I can get that tacked in place and hammered to where it needs to be. I marked it with a paint pen just so I know where I have to grind the metal to. So I'll grind the paint pen mark away, and then I'll know I am enough out of the way. So that's all that is. And I might cut this away too, just so it's not underneath here at all, but that is that. I just marked the line again, and I don't want to touch that. It's hot, I know. And so now, see, look at all that rust. I don't know what this is, but I cut through it. So, but all I'm going to do now is work this out. So I use some wire cutters and I cut it out. And now here's the first test fit. I'm obviously going to have to do some more modifying, but this is just the general test. But see, I can get this corner lined up first and then trim it away, and then I'll be able to weld it all back together. But vacuumed all this crap up, and then I cut some more off the bottom, probably a little bit too much, but I'll just fill everything in with weld. I don't care if there's a fat, ugly glob of weld right here, as long as it'll work. And then, see, there's that, and that is the shortest I've ever used a grinding wheel to, and that was my last one, so I'm gonna have to go buy some more of these. But in the meantime, I can grind away the edges of all this and that in there, and then form it together and put some really fat, ugly $90 Harbor Freight welds on it. Oh, so apparently none of this stuff is weldable because I'm trying to weld this and it just keeps burning back. And same with this, you can see how it's burning back. I'm just barely tapping it, and I don't have many options, but I have it on minimum, so there's not much I can do. So I thought I'd be able to just do one fat bead all around it, but it looks like that's not going to happen. So I'm still going to try to tack it together in some places, but hopefully I can get it better, because see, it's still moving and whatever. So this is kind of a disaster now. Change of scenery, so I went ahead and stopped on that, and then I moved to this. I took this off and I painted it flat black, and you can see there's a hole here and a hole here, and I did not like how far out that made it. There's all this wasted space in here and it was in the way, so I went ahead and remade the lines. I'm gonna have to extend these coolant lines to make it fit, because it doesn't exactly come out here all the way. The bottom one I can stretch a little bit, this top one I can't, but this top one's just a little air bubble one, that's just whatever. But the main thing why I moved it over is because this computer thing that I took off earlier, I wanted to be able to mount it. So I have it here and tucked back, and I'm going to zip tie it to this bracket right in this little crevice right here, and that'll hold it up. And I also cut the bottom of this piece off that went there, that way, because I don't really need that. It's sturdy enough, it doesn't have to be super strong, it just has to stay in one place. And I even put it a little higher because the reservoir does need to be a little bit higher up. So I ended up having to reposition it a bit because this coolant line could not go down far enough. It could not touch, so this fits in sideways just nice. I need to re-zip tie it because I had to cut the zip tie to make it work. But what I just did next was take the fan off, and this shroud, as little as the shroud helps, you would think it'd help a lot, but it doesn't really, because on my BMW I took the fan shroud out and it had the same type of fan, and the fan would like stop if you held it. Like the fan clutch was totally out and it never even overheated once in hot traffic. It was fine, so I'd keep the fan shroud out. But I do have this electric fan from one of my old parts cars, and so I was thinking about mounting that up and then getting the different pulley, because you see it's like loose now. I don't have to put the bolts back on, but I don't know if I want it sticking out that much or if I can even help that. But I'd like to have the electric fan here and then just wire it up to ignition so it stays on all the time anytime the key is turned. So it'd be like that, and there's way more space than that fat ugly thing, which I mean technically that's fat and ugly too, but boom. It's a new day, and I don't really know what else to do other than clean it. So here is a before of the engine bay. I got everything sprayed down with degreaser, and the main things I'm trying to target are like those grimed, and you can barely see the red block because it's so dirty. So I put the distributor cap back on to protect it and put a little cap over that so it doesn't get messed up. But you can see all the black crap I'm going to try to get cleaned off, all the crap down there, crap here, all there, and just trying to make this engine bay shine a little bit more. I remember when I did it to my Honda, I was surprised at how much stuff I got off. So I got all the degreaser just soaking in it for a little bit, and then I'll pull the power washer around and power wash all this crap out, hopefully. So, well, my power washer ran out of gas, but I think it ran out right after I got everything clean. The biggest improvement was right here. See, that's all nice and shiny. You can actually see part of the head now. I got the oil filter all cleaned off. I was trying to hit all this, but it wouldn't all come off, but I got lots of it. You can see the red block under there too. Lots of the paint was chipping off, and then there's this crap that's like stuck on. I remember I was trying to take that off yesterday when I was doing the battery tray, and it wouldn't come off. See, I got part of the starter, and lots of it is all cleaned off, but some of it I couldn't get all of it off. Like this wouldn't come off. Well, here it is the next day after soaking. I didn't get a chance to pressure wash it a second time, but I did soak everything down with rubber restorant, rubber whatever. It just makes everything shinier, you can see. But this is it the next day, and I'm finally starting to get a little bit of surface rust like 3 days later on the fender, and a little bit on the hood also. So this is going to start looking cool. But that is it for the first part of the rat rod build on the Volvo 240. So thank you for watching if you made it this far, and happy Easter, because it is Easter today. But hopefully next video I will be putting on the new parts and actually daily driving this and doing some more things to it, like maintenance stuff-ish, and then making it daily driver friendly, because it has no cup holders, no radio. I'm not sure if the AC or heater works, so I got to figure that stuff out. But thank you all for watching, and peace.